Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video we're taking a look at some amazing spice in the Open Master League, level 51 Celebi. These battles were submitted to the channel by a member of the community, Dero1, so many thanks for the battle submission. Now Celebi is not even ranked in the top 100 for Master League on PvPoke, so I respect the commitment to the spice using all those rare candy XLs for a mythical that isn't even meta relevant. However, this trainer takes that as a challenge and against all odds manages to get some wins with double nuke moves on the Celebi. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and check out level 51 Celebi in action. Hopping into the first match, and we see an incredibly tough lead for Celebi as it leads into a Dialga. The Ho-Oh save switch, however, the opponent decides to stay in, which is honestly perfectly fine. Going for the Sacred Fire, getting the shield, and getting the attack drop from the Dialga, and Dialga fires off their charge move on alignment, giving Ho-Oh an entire fast move for free. Opponent now going to send in a Shadow Garchomp. Look at the spice. Ho-Oh firing off the Sacred Fire. Sacred Fire will be shielded up by the Garchomp. Garchomp gets the Dragon Tail farm down. That is quite unfortunate. You cannot have the ground type anywhere near the Heatran in the back, so in comes Celebi. Celebi probably about to get one shot by an Outrage here, but the opponent goes for an Earth Power. So it looks like they are actually running double ground moves, Earth Power and Sand Tomb. And the opponent will go for the Sand Tomb there. Celebi makes the Dazzling Gleam. No shields left for the opponent. This is super effective damage. Getting the knockout onto the Garchomp. In comes Heatran. Opponent sends in the Dialga. And the opponent concedes the match. Moving into the next match, getting Celebi into Zacian, and if this is double nuke Zacian, they are fully walled. They switch out, so it looks like they are. The Dialga save switch will be answered with Ho-Oh. The stronger counter switch would actually be Heatran in this situation, as Heatran, of course, due to the steel subtyping, also has the resistance to Draco Meteor. We see the no shield from the Ho-Oh, calling the Iron Head bait, and Ho-Oh is going to be firing off the Sacred Fire. Sacred Fire will be shielded by the opponent and gets the attack drop as well. Farming up to Sacred Fire number 2, but not before the opponent makes it to the Iron Head. Very nice timing by the opponent. And we're going to see Ho-Oh actually take extra Dragon Breath damage before going for the Sacred Fire. This way, if the opponent no shields, whatever they send in gets less farm. But we see a double debuff and a double shield from the opponent, and in comes Heatran. Heatran is an absolute wall to energy from Dialga, and on top of that, the Dialga is double debuffed. So this is a very safe no shield from the Heatran. That's a double debuffed and heavily resisted Iron Head, so that does absolutely nothing. Opponent, did they make it to the Draco Meteor? Yes, they did. Draco Meteor will connect. And now the opponent is going to be sending in the Zacian. It is the Quick Attack Zacian, which is typically running Wild Charge and Close Combat. That move will connect, firing off another Magma Storm, and this is going to be getting that Zacian pretty low. Zacian very close to getting KO'd here, farming up, and we see a switch into the Celebi as the opponent fires off their energy. They went for the close combat, and in the back, it's a Shadow Lugia. Lugia, these Dragon Tails absolutely chunking. Celebi making it to the Dazzling Gleam. Dazzling Gleam is neutral damage here. That connects, and oh my goodness, the difference in stat product is so evident. Celebi makes it to the Leaf Storm, and this is important damage. This is resisted, but this gets same type attack bonus. The Leaf Storm connects. Lugia is now into the red health. Heatran unfortunately loses the charge attack priority, so Heatran is going to have to burn the final shield. Heatran going for this Magma Storm. Magma Storm into the Lugia, does pick up the KO. In comes the Zacian. Zacian will get outpaced by one singular turn. Heatran makes the Magma Storm, takes down the Zacian, and gets the win. Moving into the next match, getting Celebi into Dragonite. Honestly, Dragonite is difficult for this entire team to deal with. Celebi at the very least does have access to Dazzling Gleam, but if the opponent shields, this is going to be a very difficult match. Celebi is going to no-shield as the opponent fires off the Dragon Claw. Celebi farming up past the Leaf Storm to the Dazzling Gleam. This is big. Do they respect the damage? They do not! Dazzling Gleam connects, in comes the Heatran, but the opponent is going to fire off energy with the Dragonite. Heatran will respect it with a shield. Opponent now sends in Xerneas. Xerneas can enforce super effective damage with close combat, but the important thing here is that Heatran is able to survive one close combat, so Heatran does not have to shield. Here, this is actually a bit unfortunate that Heatran wins CMP, as if Heatran lost CMP, then the opponent would have to shield that move, whereas they actually could have no-shielded here, survived that Magma Storm, and gotten to the back-to-back moves. They end up shielding anyway, opponent overfarming, and they play to a CMP tie that they do not win. a misplay by the opponent. That's going to cost them their final shield, and now this just sets up energy on Ho-Oh. This will be no shielded. In comes the Ho-Oh. Opponent sends in Dragonite. Dragonite should be able to make it to a Dragon Claw, and that's fine. Ho-Oh able to withstand that damage, no problem. And Ho-Oh not only has a shield advantage, but a loaded move. In comes Lugia. Lugia is going to be hit with the Sacred Fire. This will connect, no shields remaining for the opponent, and gets the debuff. Farming up with the Ho-Oh, we see a switch into the Celebi as the opponent fires off the Sky Attack. A very nice catch. Opponent goes for the undercharge. They're looking for energy, and they're going to get a lot of it. Oh goodness, they get so much energy on the Lugia. Back in comes the Ho-Oh. Ho-Oh going for the Brave Bird. Will this be lethal? Yes, it will. And now, all they have left in the back is the Xerneas, and the Xerneas falls to the Incinerate damage. We see a familiar lead in the next match, Celebi into Dialga. As before, this is a miserable matchup. We see a save switch into Ho-Oh, and Ho-Oh is going to be answered with Kyogre. Definitely not a great start to the match. Hard countered on the lead and swap. Surf does massive damage. We're going to see Ho-Oh returning fire here, firing off the Brave Bird. Brave Bird will be no-shielded by Kyogre. Definitely going to want to wait the switch clock here, send in the Celebi, and look for the Magical Leaf farm down. In comes the Celebi. Celebi gets the Magical Leaf farm down, can potentially make it to a Dazzling Gleam versus the Dialga, but this is non-stab move. This is a Dialga, so this is not going to do a ton of damage. Dialga able to withstand that damage. In comes the Heatran in the back. Opponent has Mewtwo, and this actually seems playable. Heatran can do pretty okay versus Mewtwo in the twos. Heatran fires off the Magma Storm. Opponent is going to let that through. Opponent overfarming quite a bit and firing off their charge move on very nice timing. Opponent goes for the Psystrike bait. They're able to successfully grab a shield from the Heatran, and with that bait, this is suddenly looking a bit tough. Magma Storm will be shielded. Opponent over farming. They're firing off their energy, and we will see a shield from the Heatran. Opponent goes for the Shadow Ball. Heatran looking for the farm down. Oh no, but the Mewtwo on 1 HP makes the last second charge move, and it is the Shadow Ball, getting Heatran deep into the red. Heatran firing off this move onto the Dialga. We see the shield of the Magma Storm, making it to the last second Magma Storm number 2. Will this be enough to KO? I think not. Dialga able to withstand the damage. In comes the Celebi. And the question is, can Celebi tank the move? It's the Draco Meteor. It definitely cannot. Heatran runs out of HP, and Dialga takes the 1 HP win. The Dragon leads are unrelenting, leading Celebi into another Dragonite. Same game plan as the previous Dragonite lead. Stay in here with the Celebi, tank a move, and hope against hope that the opponent does not know about Dazzling Gleam. Dragon Claw is no-shielded. Celebi farming up, going for the Dazzling Gleam. Can it go 2 for 2, landing the Gleams? No, it cannot. The opponent commits the shield, and that is extremely heartbreaking. This Dragonite has a massive amount of energy. We see the shield from the Heatran, and the shield is correct. It is the superpower from the opponent, but the Dragonite is already at superpower number 2. This is 1 stage debuff, but it's still gonna hurt. Getting this Heatran deep into the red. Heatran going for a bait. Oh goodness, this will be tough. Opponent calls the bait. That's extremely unfortunate. Forced to go for another Magma Storm. And at this point, I think the opponent is perfectly fine with just letting the Dragonite go. What is in the back? It is an Excadrill, and this very well could be the standard free-to-play team of Dragonite, Excadrill, and Metagross. If that's the case, then Ho-Oh is about to feast. In comes Celebi in the back. Guess what? It's the Metagross, and Metagross getting absolutely cooked by Ho-Oh. This is Metagross's worst nightmare. It doesn't matter what they throw. Earthquake, Meteor Mesh, Ho-Oh tanks it like it's nothing, and Ho-Oh going for the undercharge on the Sacred Fire. Sacred Fire, unfortunately, still does get the KO. Ho-Oh is going to get one shot here by the Rock Slide, so it will need to commit that shield. Ho-Oh now going for the Brave Bird. This is resisted, but Exca is extremely glassy in the Master League, and that is going to get Exca extremely low. Exca makes it to the last second move, but this should still be game over, as back in comes Celebi, and Celebi will secure the victory. The bad leads continue for Celebi as it now leads into Solgaleo. Immediate save switch into Heatran. Solgaleo is going to stay in here and go for a Psychic Fangs to get an early debuff applied. And we're definitely seeing why Celebi is definitely not typically seen in the Master League. There's just so many Dragon types and so many Steel types in the format that Celebi, being the Grass Psychic type, does really struggle to find its footing. Heatran able to successfully bait with the Magma Storm, understanding that Breaking Swipe users love to shield the first move. Heatran not going to be able to knock out with the Stone Edge here, since it's debuffed, but it will still deal a lot of damage to the Rayquaza and potentially put it into Magical Leaf farm down range. But this is double resisted Magical Leafs, so this might be a tall ask. In comes Celebi, gets the Magical Leaf through as the opponent fires off the Breaking Swipe. Celebi looking for the farm down of Rayquaza, but the Rayquaza refuses to get KO'd, making it to one final charge move. This is now a double debuff Celebi. Celebi has the Leaf Storm, looking to switch out into the Ho-Oh. In comes the Solgaleo, and in the back, it is Lugia. And Ho-Oh is going to need to clutch in a major way here, as the opponent's team is so strong into Celebi. Sacred Fire is shielded. The attack drop is gotten first try, though. That is incredibly nice. We are going to see the shield from Ho-Oh. Ho-Oh will need 2 charge moves to get rid of the Lugia here. Ho-Oh farming up energy, unfortunately firing off the Sacred Fire on alignment, and Lugia gets an entire Dragon Tail for free. Sacred Fire connects, we see another debuff, Ho-Oh farming up, but perfect charge move timing from the opponent. We see the shields from the Ho-Oh. Lugia fires off another move. In comes Celebi, and the opponent simultaneously switches into the Solgaleo. Going for the Dazzling Gleam. Dazzling Gleam is resisted, and Solgaleo is going to get the farm down. In comes Ho-Oh, and Ho-Oh is going to be able to secure the knockout with the Sacred Fire. The question is, can Ho-Oh make it to a move before Lugia gets to an Aero Blast? Come on, Ho-Oh. Ho-Oh gets to the move, and it looks like that is a CMP tie. Ho-Oh winning CMP over Lugia, and despite the terrible lead, somehow able to get the win. Picking up a decent lead in the next match, Celebi into Groudon. Groudon, of course, still has access to Fire Punch. Opponent gonna save switch into Dialga, building all the way up to a Dazzling Gleam and sending in the Heatran. Heatran, of course, an absolute wall to the standard moveset on Dialga, and it's very nice to basically just more or less throw away the Heatran here, as Heatran is the only Pokemon on the team that Groudon has a very positive matchup against, so you basically just never shield the Heatran, and then even if the opponent does try and make a play for switch, it doesn't matter, because whether the Groudon is aligned onto the Celebi or onto the Ho-Oh, it's still a favorable matchup. We're going to see the opponent firing off their energy just before the Magma Storm is reached. Opponent will go for the Fire Punch, and that is still enough to get the KO. Celebi has a bunch of energy, but Fire Punch will hurt. In comes the Celebi. Celebi firing off this Leaf Storm. Is the opponent going to respect it? They do. Celebi farming up energy. Opponent going for the Fire Punch. Let's see how much damage this does. Fire Punch does quite a lot of damage. The next Fire Punch will actually KO. And suddenly, only having nuke moves is looking a bit rough. I believe Celebi also gets Seed Bomb, but this trainer chose to run exclusively nukes. In the bag, it's Zacian, and speaking of nuke moves, if they're running Wild Charge, then this could get very difficult in the endgame. Firing off the Sacred Fire, opponent is going to no shield, and unfortunately, no attack drop. We see the shield from the Ho-Oh. Can Ho-Oh get a farm down here? Zacian is going to make it to another charge move, and this is not good for the Ho-Oh. This is super effective damage from the Wild Charge. In comes the Groudon, and Groudon will immediately be met with a Brave Bird. Brave Bird is shielded, but if the opponent can Mudshot down here, oh, they don't. They don't Mudshot down, but the question is, can Celebi make it to the Leaf Storm? Celebi has the Leaf Storm banked, but loses CMP. Oh, no! And the Fire Punch gets the KO. Hopping into the final match, picking up a tough lead, Celebi into Xerneas. Opponent save switches into a Kyogre. What is going on? Now, Kyogre is going to be met with a Dazzling Gleam here. Leaf Storm, of course, would debuff the attack of the Celebi, so choosing to go for the more expensive Dazzling Gleam to not get that status effect. Kyogre has built up to a Blizzard. We see the shield on the Celebi, but it does only end up being a Surf. Kyogre trying to make it to the Blizzard. They get greedy, and they do not get their energy. In comes Yveltal, and Yveltal will be met with the Dazzling Gleam. Dazzling Gleam will be shielded. Celebi continuing to farm. Celebi opting to go for the Leaf Storm. I would have liked to see trying to commit to the Dazzling Gleam here, as Celebi definitely would have made it, as Leaf Storm still does some okay damage, but the Dazzling Gleam, of course, would hit for super effective. There is so much energy on this Yveltal, and we're going to see a no shield from the Heatran. This could be the Focus Blast, but the opponent is running Oblivion Wing. They went for a blind Oblivion Wing, and now the move is caught onto Ho-Oh, and it is going to be the Dark Pulse. So the opponent not running Focus Blast, going for a blind Oblivion Wing, and that cost them as Heatran was brought onto the field. That Dark Pulse is going to connect. Ho-Oh looking for a farm down. That's not going to happen. Do we see a shield from Ho-Oh? No, choosing to fully sacrifice the Ho-Oh here and leave it all up to Heatran. Back in comes the Xerneas. Xerneas is going to have to deal with a lot of energy from the Heatran. This Magma Storm will connect. Heatran farming up to the Stone Edge, and this is absolutely the right play. Stone Edge does more damage than Magma Storm. Will this KO? Yes, it will. And Yveltal runs out of HP as Heatran will take the win. All in all, these were some very fun battles, and again, massive props to this trainer for using their Rare Candy XL instead of like on a really meta-relevant mythical like Solgaleo or Zygarde. They used it on a Celebi, so massive props for the spice. And even though Celebi felt like lost every single lead again and again and again, leading into terrible matchups like Dialga, Solgaleo, Dragonite, the team was still able to find some wins. And I feel like that's a really good example of an ABB style team where they have the two fire types in the back, the goal of the Ho-Oh being to bait out the best counter for the potential Heatran to sweep in the endgame. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.